Bernie Sanders has smashed the Overton window wide open with his call for a complete moratorium on the construction of new AI data centers. Yes, he's taking into account the environmental concerns, he's taking into account job loss, but he's also listening to the experts when they tell us that superintelligent AI, that's AI that's smarter than all humans, could be here in less than 5 years, maybe before the end of the decade, and that has a significant chance of literally killing us all. Here's his video explaining why he wants a moratorium on AI data centers.
Thanks very much for joining me. I will soon be introducing legislation calling for a moratorium on the construction of new data centers. Now, as a result, I've been called a Luddite, anti-innovation, anti-progress, pro-Chinese, among many other things. So, why am I doing that? We are at the beginning of the most profound technological revolution in world history. That's the truth. Further, and frighteningly, some very knowledgeable people fear that what was once seen as science fiction could soon become a reality. And that is that superintelligent AI could become smarter than human beings, could become independent of human control, and pose an existential threat to the entire human race. In other words, human beings could actually lose control over the planet.
So as he says in that video, he said he's been called a Luddite, he's been called pro-Chinese, he's been called anti-progress. All of these labels may make sense if you completely ignore what the experts are warning us, but if you do what Bernie has done and you actually listen to what they are saying, you take their arguments seriously, when you see the empirical evidence that we already have of AI models doing crazy stuff that we can't control, and that are clear warning signs that we don't know how to make sure that it's not going to kill us all when it becomes smarter than us. He recently sat down with some AI experts to listen to what their concerns were.
And you'll see cases where Cloud Opus will say things like, this actually seems like a strange contrived scenario. I think I'm being tested, therefore I'm going to let myself be shut down.
Whoa.
They call this eval awareness if you look at the papers on the subject.
It's scary. I mean, that's what's keeping you guys up at night.
How strange it is that we find ourselves in a timeline that the number one US senator, the one who is listening to the experts the most, who is willing to take this threat seriously, is an 84-year-old man. He is one of the few senators. There are other US politicians who are taking this threat seriously, but not many. But he is the one who's actually sitting down with the experts and listening to them. That is the least we can expect of the politicians that are meant to serve us. For Eliezer Yudkowsky and Nate Suarez, who we spoke to in that video, they have been speaking about this for such a long time. Eliezer Yudkowsky has been warning about this for over 20 years now. And it must be such a relief for him to finally see a hugely popular politician sit down with him and listen to him. That's all he's ever asked. Because by listening to the experts, by being willing to consider, at the very least, this threat, that is the only way we're going to be able to find a solution to it. So huge credit to Bernie for doing this. Bernie is not the only one who is calling for a moratorium on new AI data centers. As data centers become increasingly unpopular, as AI in general becomes increasingly unpopular for a whole host of reasons, politicians are starting to take notice that this is what their constituents want, that they do not want AI companies to have free reign to race ahead without any regulation. So he mentions that when he first proposed the idea of a moratorium, when he began to speak about this a couple months ago, he was called a Luddite, and this was seen as a radical fringe idea. But Bernie has smashed the Overton window wide open. One of the most popular politicians in America. I think he might be the most popular politician in America if you look at favorability ratings. He has smashed the Overton window wide open, and people are beginning to take these ideas more seriously. One of the Democrats, Maxwell Frost from Florida, says this doesn't mean we're anti-innovation. We need to legislate on behalf of our constituents. Of course, this is the case, right? What good is innovation if we are building models that we can't control and will probably result in disaster for not just all Americans, but for all of humanity? What good is that innovation? Innovation is not a good in and of itself. It's only good insofar as it serves human well-being. Right. But another Democrat, the Senator John Fetterman, has brought up the issue of waving a surrender flag to China. Now, this, of course, is absurd. How does America win a race against China to have all of their citizens without jobs and all of the social upheaval that will come with that, and to build AI models that are smarter than all Americans at everything, and those AI models being uncontrollable by the companies who are building them because they have no idea how to do it. They have no idea how the models even work, let alone having any robust plan to control them. And the experts are warning would pose an existential threat to the entirety of the human race, let alone just Americans. How does that mean that America wins that race? It doesn't matter if America builds it. It doesn't matter if China builds it. If anyone builds it, everyone dies. Unfortunately, John Fetterman probably isn't actually considering the existential threat when he's making a point like this. And that is his fault. He should be listening to the experts. That is his duty as a politician. But unfortunately, this article in its entirety doesn't even mention the existential threat at any point. And this is the problem. This is why people are able to get away with the, oh, we need to beat China narrative. One of the main reasons that Bernie wants a moratorium on data centers is because he is listening to the experts and they're telling him, look, Bernie, we could have superintelligent AI in less than 5 years. We have no idea how to control it and it could kill us all. Bernie's listening to them. He is worried. He said in the video we showed earlier that he is scared about this. That's one of the reasons he wants a moratorium. This article has not mentioned it at any point, and that gives free rein to people like John Fetterman to say, oh, well, what about China? Which is a sensible argument when the existential threat is not present. If it were the case that the companies building these models knew how to control them, that they wouldn't try to deceive us, that they wouldn't try to hide dangerous behavior, that they wouldn't lie on tests, that they wouldn't have a desire for self-preservation, then it would make sense for America to want to beat China because their AI would be aligned to American values and that would benefit America. The reality is that the companies in America and the companies in China have no idea how to align their AIs with any set of values. Doesn't matter if they're American, doesn't matter if they're Chinese, doesn't matter if they're communists, doesn't matter if they're capitalists. We don't know how to align them with any values. We don't know how to control them. So it doesn't matter who builds them. This race is not a winnable race. James Fishback, who is a politician on the complete other end of the political spectrum from Bernie, is sympathetic to what Bernie is proposing, to a moratorium on AI data centers. He doesn't mention the existential threat. It's primarily due to the impact on local communities, but he can see where the political winds are blowing. AI is becoming increasingly unpopular, and so are data centers. Now, some have been surprised that it's a politician on the far left, if you can use that term, who is one of the politicians who is speaking about the existential threat the most, given that it has been a prominent position on the left to completely deny the capabilities of AI. I do think this is still a minority view, regardless of where you look. There are some incredibly loud and annoying people on the internet who express this view that AI is just a stochastic parrot and that it's not really intelligent, it can't really do anything, and that there's nothing to worry about. But Bernie is not listening to them because he is actually willing to look at the empirical evidence we already have of AI models improving at a rapid rate.
As we speak, AI companies are making their models smarter and smarter and smarter. According to Model Evaluation and Threat Research Group, the length of tasks AI can complete is doubling roughly every 7 months, doubling. We are looking at the most significant investment in human history, which is bringing about the most rapid societal transformation in human history. And let me be very clear. Congress is way behind where it should be in understanding the nature of this revolution or understanding its impacts. We have got to catch up, and frankly, we don't have a lot of time. That is not fully understood even by the people who are building it. How insane is that, and how dangerous is that? AI already does weird stuff. It can lie, it can cheat, and can even blackmail. Left unchecked, what will AI be able to do in a decade from now when it will be far, far, far smarter than it is today?
So those who want to bury their heads in the sand and claim that AI is rubbish at everything, it's not getting better, there's no real competence or capability there, they are ignoring the evidence. I understand the urge to bury your head in the sand. It's incredibly fucking scary to think that we might soon have AI that is better than us at everything, because that would obviously pose a significant risk of ending all of our lives, right? We don't want that to be true. But ignoring the empirical evidence does not help. And Bernie is brave enough to look at the empirical evidence, to listen to the experts, and look at the empirical evidence that says that the capabilities of AI models are doubling every 7 months. And that is a graph from Meta, which is an organization that studies the capabilities of AI models. And unfortunately, the 7-month figure looks like it's actually shorter now, the doubling rate. It is looking like it's more like 4 months, the doubling rate now. The best model on this metric can now do tasks that take humans over 10 hours. Only 2 years ago, they could only do tasks that take humans a few minutes, right? We've seen that level of increase. This is obviously very scary. Bernie also mentions there the empirical evidence we have of AI models resorting to blackmail to attempt to preserve themselves. This is something that the AI safety community has been warning about for a hell of a long time, and we're now seeing with the models we currently have. Obviously, it is a stupid idea to continue to scale the capabilities of these models up past the point of human intelligence. That would end in disaster for us. Now, obviously, Bernie has heard the criticism that if America pauses, well, what about China? They're just going to continue. Here is his response to it.
Let me be clear. In my view, we should not be racing with China or anyone else to see who is the first to eliminate millions of jobs or the first to build an AI that destroys the planet. That is not a race anyone should win. What we need is a serious conversation in our community, in our country, and around the world about the role of AI and how we make it beneficial to all humanity.
So there's the key thing. Bernie knows we need international dialogue on this issue. A unilateral pause in America will help, will maybe push back the arrival of superintelligence by a few years, which, by the way, is still a very good thing to do, even if you don't get a global treaty. But what we do need in the long run is a global treaty. Bernie has not yet explicitly called for that, which is a shame. I hope he does. It seems like he understands that's what we need. Everyone understands that, right? This argument from AI accelerationists that, oh, if we pause, then China is just going to continue. Yes, we know. That's why everyone is calling for a global treaty. And if you're one of these idiots who says, oh, well, China would never agree to a global treaty, why is that? I don't know a lot about Chinese culture. I don't know a lot about Chinese politics, about the personality of the Chinese man, but I'm pretty sure that they don't want to die. I'm pretty sure that they don't want their children to die. I'm pretty sure that they're intelligent enough to understand that if we build something that's smarter than all humans, that those things could happen, that they could die and their children could die. We can work together to stop that from happening. A global ban is feasible. We've mentioned it before, but to train an AI model requires billions of dollars, tens of thousands of GPUs, which are the product of an incredibly fragile supply chain with lots of bottlenecks. If we wanted to stop this rate internationally, and the major powers, primarily America and China, also the UK and other countries were on board, we could easily do it. It is a feasible thing to implement an international treaty to stop the race of superintelligence. And it's what we need. Chinese people are human too. They want to live. Bernie seems like he understands that. And as he says, we should not be racing to replace all jobs and replace humans with superintelligent AI if we have no idea how to make sure that would actually benefit us. That is a suicidal race. Bernie understands that. A growing number of people understand that. And hopefully all politicians understand that before AI companies get to superintelligence. Otherwise, it's not looking very good for us.